Richie, you'll appreciate this. Darren is going to talk to us today about the Final Four and Kentucky not being in it. Hello, Darren. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, Woody.
Thanks for joining me and Benjamin Hochman and Rich Clarkson, who I'm sure you're familiar with his photography over the years, and Benjamin, brilliant columnist for the Denver Post. I saw and was interested by the comments that by Kentucky not winning, that there were tens of millions of dollars lost by merchandisers, and it cost the school of Kentucky at least $1.5 million in memorabilia that people would have bought there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about $15 million total in memorabilia, and Kentucky had about a 20% royalty that licensees had to pay them. That comes off the gross price. So if you buy a shirt for $20, the royalty that Kentucky is going to make is off $10, but they make 20%. So the market was expected to be about $15 million. So Kentucky would be at $1.5 million. It would be the biggest national championship from a basketball standpoint as far as money coming in, because undefeated just added that much more want for people, to go after and get more products. I mean, Kentucky fans, from what we heard, were buying at every level. Undefeated regular season, SEC champion. Sometimes I look at these T-shirts and I'm like, who'd buy it when 4 days later they're in the Final Four? Why would you buy a tournament shirt? I mean, it's like then it becomes a dish rag. But I guess Kentucky fans had 7 T-shirts, so good for the licensees and good for the school. But of course, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's almost a trickle-down effect also, because I remember when the Patriots had the undefeated season,
sure.
And I met a guy named Roger Director, who used to be a sports editor and is now a producer in Hollywood for a number of major shows. And I said, "What are you working on, Roger?" And he said, "I'm writing a book called The Undefeated Team." And I said, "Are you almost finished with it?" He said, "I got one more chapter. I'm going to write it after tonight's game." And when the Giants beat the Patriots, all I could think about was Roger Director had a book he could just stick up his butt.
Sure.
And I think the trickle-down effect is, I'm sure there were going to be 15 books about Kentucky.
Right. Okay, so Bon Jovi had flown in that night to do the celebration undefeated Patriots concert after the game. And so after, he was with Robert Kraft, fuddling his duddle. So that's one. And two, the Patriots 3 weeks before they went undefeated filed for multiple trademarks to the perfect season, one of which they still have out. And I was thinking, hey, they should wrap that up and then sell it to Kentucky.
That's good, Darren. Yeah. For me, one of my favorite aspects of sports merchandise is what they do with all these T-shirts. And you hear these stories that in Africa, where they take the shirts, they think the Buffalo Bills are the greatest football team of all time because 4 years in a row they got T-shirts that said Super Bowl champs. So tell us a little bit about what they do with the merchandise, where it goes, and who it helps.
No, it doesn't happen here because you have days, and there's a greater distribution of where you could print at the last minute. So there's not much of Kentucky undefeated stuff. With the Super Bowl, there's usually between 50 and 85,000 items from the losing team. And I actually followed the Bears when they lost to the Colts. I followed where it went.
Whoa!
I sent a camera with one of these missionary people from World Vision, which is the NFL and Dick's Sporting Goods and all the retailers donate to them, and then they bring it down to usually third world countries in Africa, Central America. Nicaragua is a popular place to bring it. And I follow them, and they were literally celebrating with the. They thought Rex Grossman was the best quarterback ever.
It's funny you bring that up because I tried to do that after the Broncos lost to Seattle last year, and I called World Vision, and they're really tight-lipped about where they're going to send it.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you did an exceptional job that I couldn't duplicate because I still don't know where the Broncos Super Bowl stuff. I was going to try and find it and do what you did and have somebody like Rich Clarkson.
They really, I understand it. They don't want to burn it.
Right.
There's a lot of less fortunate people out there, and they don't like the message that sends. But at the same time, they don't want things do get out, and I was able to get a bunch of designs of 40-0 and undefeated and all this stuff from Kentucky. They have to make the designs. The interesting thing is, I went down to Lexington on Tuesday to do a whole story. I mean, I wasted my time too, because I readied a story for SportsCenter on the business of 40-0, which also went in the wastebasket. But when I went to Lexington, Kentucky, the school nor the athletic department would talk to me about it. They didn't want to jinx themselves, and I guess they did, but they lost anyway.
I want to add Darren's Twitter. His tweets are the best in the world.
I love them.
Tell people how to follow you.
I'm at Darren Rovell on Twitter. I have a lot of fun. For the big games like the national championship game, I spent about 30 hours ahead of time gathering stuff.
Wow.
And one of the things that I've done is I've basically said, well, what's the best way to get things for Twitter that are out there but people don't have? And so I bought, Woody, sporting news from 1970 to 1985, every single one of them.
Huh. And I was right. Well, I'd like to have those because I was writing Bob Ryan and I were writing the basketball column for that.
I know.
During that period of time.
I've already read way too many ABA columns. But it's great. I mean, it's just incredible to see all the stuff. Even particularly before free agency in baseball in 75 and 74. People complaining about the salaries, and this is ridiculous that a DH is earning $143,000.
Sure.
It's just some great stuff. So I have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wrote about a guy named Larry Cannon that signed a 4-year, $600,000 contract, and I said, "This has got to be the end of it. It can't be any higher than that. No more money."
They're getting towards $700,000.
But Darren, I love to do research like you do, and I went back in the 1880s, and people were complaining about ball players' salaries in the 1880s.
There it is.
It's something.
Absolutely.
Hey, we appreciate you spending time with us. It's been great to talk to you, and that is something. It's almost, and Benjamin brought up the thing, it's whatever happens to all the merchandise, does it just go away? Well, some of it goes to Uruguay.
Well played.
Exactly.
Thank you, Darren. We appreciate your time.
Anytime.
Oh, yeah, I hope you'll come back and join us again. Thanks.
He's good.
Bizz Buzz was brought to you by Sports Bizz Buzz. That was my name that came up for it. To try and bring in less, and Sports Bizz Buzz.
Oh,
less,
yeah.
anyway.
I like it.
Family-owned, Colorado-focused business bank. That's citywide bank with 12 locations across Denver and Boulder, over 25 services that business needs, and citywide, which I really appreciate, is a passionate supporter of, get this, more than 150 Colorado charities each year.
Wow.
Lester and I are going to get involved in a number of those charities with citywide banks, and I drive by one every day, and I love seeing this more than anything, because everything we see in the world says made in China or made in India. It says locally owned, locally operated.
I love it.
I just love that.
Yeah.
Joining us, Rich Clarkson in studio.
man.
I am Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
At Citywide Banks,
We put you first by exceeding your service expectations every day.
Every day.